Hey guys, I want to talk about SERA. Not even just my trades. I have actually like small green on this. Only tried one short. I'll show you what I did, but I actually just want to talk about good news biotechs. Um, there's a big difference. Biotech stocks are very can be dangerous to trade. I'm not saying don't trade them. There's definitely plenty of awful biotech stocks that are 100% worth trading. So we'll talk about like SERA, and then we'll talk about ZVSA, right? So, um, we'll look, fundamentally, so these are both in the biotech space, right? And these both popped today. ZVSA faded like 40, 50% from pre-market highs, and SERA had an insane, massive squeeze, not just in the pre-market, but at market open, right? So, you always want to when you're trading biotechs, you really do want to separate biotechs into like awful biotechs and good ones, right? So ZVSA is a stock. You can look at the daily and you can look at the last 3, 4 times this thing is traded. This thing just gives back its whole move. It's super weak. There's a lot of red flags in terms of how bad this thing is, right? There's like, it's tiny float. Um, which of course means minimal institutional support, but it's like it's tiny float. There's a ton of overhead. This is from Dilution Tracker, right? Has tons of historical dilution. It has no money, right? Has offerings on offerings on offerings and pipes and warrants and all types of stuff, and it gives back its whole move, right? So, I mean, 1 million float stocks, of course, always have the potential to go on crazy rigs, have a bunch of bids out of nowhere, do 500% squeezes. Like, that stuff is always, there's always, even in, look at things like RNAS, right? Like, RNAS is a biotech stock that has the same kind of, um, bad fundamentals, right? They had no cash and has a history of fading. It was a 30-cent penny stock for a reason, right? And it goes on this crazy multi-up-halt rig into a strong close into an overnight offering, like stuff like this. So there's always potential for, small float stocks to do stuff like that, including ZVSA. But at least you know that a lot of those types of plays will go back to where they came from. You still have to trade the same patterns. You still have to trade good patterns with good risk and all that stuff, but um, you know that, like, hey, like this doesn't have a lot of potential to hold its move, right? But if we go to SERA, we have a totally different picture here. We have, this was at market open. This was 100 million market cap, 30 million float, decent IO. The news was pretty decent. It's especially these biotechs that have has like 80 million in cash, right? No, this is unregistered warrants, right? So no dilution, and they don't even need to dilute because they have plenty of money, right? Um, and if news comes, it's like SLNO. If news comes out that institutions and biotech funds really like, they'll start buying it, right? So it's very and also a big problem with a play like this is since the float's so big, um, shares are almost always easy to borrow or super cheap, right? So you can it's unlike ZVSA. I got shares of this early for like 5 cents, but then they went to 15, 20 cents right away, right? So hard to borrow stock in low flow stock. Where easy to borrow, it's potentially bullish. It's easy to borrow because there's a lot of shares of the company, right? Because it's a real, it's not every float with 50 million is a real company, but if we start looking at cash and the daily chart and institutional support and stuff like that, you could tell it's a real company, right? So if we combine that with the chart here, I saw this pop, and I was, of course, just looking at the fundamentals. I'm like, I'm not going to trade that short. Like, I'm not going to trade that. But I was watching the book on it, and it was really interesting that you could see this is what like what a lot. This is what like real buying looks like, right? If we zoom out, you'll notice that on that first pop in the morning, there's there's bids down here, there's asks down here. It's not immediately obvious what's going to happen with the stock, right? You do get like your quick pullback, which can get attacked later. So there's some potentially bullish uh, technical analysis stuff going on. There are bids, multiple layers of bids. That's bullish, a potential, or I should say potentially bullish. But most importantly, if we start zooming out past this 350 level, we can see that the book to the upside is really empty, right? So, and then when this thing starts pushing, whatever biotech fund or whoever bought this stock, it's just accumulating in the pre-market, and it's just like there's outside of a few orders that retail is like throwing up, right? To like catch the top and stuff like that. Like there's still like there's no orders, man, all the way to 6. That's why I thought I zoomed out. I'm like, dude, there's no orders all the way to this guy up here at $6, and unsurprisingly, look like and when a real buyer is buying, man, there doesn't even need to be a lot of bids. They're just probably um, slapping limit orders into the ask, and they're just constantly, there's little bits that keep showing up, and it's just look at all this empty space up here, man. Throws one guy out, and there's like still more empty space fills the empty like on these good news biotech plays, if there's a real buyer and there's not a lot of orders on the book to the upside, I think it could get slapped. It'll get slapped. Like there's people with hundreds of millions of dollars in these funds who will buy stocks if they like them, and they don't care. They don't care if it's $3, $4, $5. They're just buying it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, let's just buy 3, 4, 500,000 shares of it. Like, yeah, it's a good. We like the news. We like the stock, and they just do that. So the only trade I did take, by the way, I was really trying to avoid this. I didn't even reserve. I reserved like 1/3 size short, but I'm like, yeah, like let's see what happens at market open. Um, and I saw them holding this support level at 490, 490, 490, 490, 490. I'm like, all right, 490. Definitely don't want to chase this. There's a ton of empty space up here. You don't want to chase stocks when there's no ask up here, right? Bounces off 490 again. It pushes to where I know the asks are, 550 and 556. But this works both ways, right? I see that there's no bids following this up, and I see that just 490, 490, 490, 490, 490. I'm like, oh man, if 490 gets broken, it could really, crack, do a decent crack. And I was thinking of maybe like scalping this. I was actually with Good News Biotechs. I was like, um, I'll take some off on the first support crack, and then see what happens afterwards. Um, so I saw this, and a person in my Discord room called out. It's like, hey, this is being walked down. So walk down just means it's the person controlling this is just it's lower highs, often for like it could be 5 minutes, sometimes it could be 30 minutes. A walk down could be very, it's just a lot of lower highs where a lot of shorts are getting in. And then I knew there was a 75,000 share bid at 4.9, and I told my Discord room, I was like, watch for the reaction on that. If somebody has a 75k bid at 4.9, if that thing gets broken, it doesn't automatically mean it's bearish. There's so many things that can happen with that. It could undercut it and come back up, which is what happened here. Sometimes it is. Sometimes there's a book flip where the bid becomes an ask and they shove it down, right? So somebody gets really and they start bag holding that. It just depends on the reaction. But I knew I was like on something. This thing was kind of after that pre-market parabolic move in the Good News Biotech. I was like, man, this thing definitely has bullish potential regardless of the percent move. I mean, look at SNL Node. I think went up 900% in a day, that type of thing. So I was like, all right, when I see 4.9 get broken, I'll cover some instantly. And I got a 4.79 cover. And then I just saw this I was looking at the book. I just start getting market ordered, and I took everything out in the low fives. I'm like, I was like, this is like a 75k bid should not get reclaimed. Like here's the crack, and here's the instant like 50-cent reclaim. I was like, that is super. I've seen this before. It's super bullish, right? So it's like, let me just get out, and then this insane thing happened. What's funny, you can actually see the $6 ask. It was there the whole time from the pre-market. That's where they push it to. They swipe everybody. They throw a bid back up, and I actually long this, but like kind of small, and I also kind of messed up the trade. I longed this in the 490s, and I said to my Discord, I was like, this is the type of stock to come back up, right? This is like Good News Biotech doing this crazy stuff is the type of stock to just reclaim this whole move. But I saw it stall in the 530s, and I saw this ash show up in the 530s. Again, I wasn't short bias, I was definitely long bias, but I wanted to de-risk, so I sold a lot. Like I sold like 60, 70% of position at like 5.3s, and then the squeeze happened, and then I sold the rest into the push into the like 7, but I ended up only making like $1 a share on it or something like that, and then I missed a whole crazy move. But yeah, there was kind of a sick long trap at the top, but again, I wasn't really looking to short this, and I wasn't really playing for this type of move. But here is that move, by the way. There's actually two of these moves. Um, there's pretty much a $10 ask you could have risked, but and yeah, and then this one happened. This got even closer to $10, and a new ask came in with no bid support, and this was actually kind of nice. And this ended up fading like from that entry. It's actually like a 40% fade. That was actually kind of an insane trade, but I didn't catch that. I thought maybe it could do crazy stuff all day. By the way, if you want to look, I linked in my Discord. PHVS popped today. PHVS was another ticker a year ago when the market was really hot. This was December 8th of last year, 2022. Um, this was another good news biotech that did a very similar strong market crazy squeeze, and I remember this. I was like, a lot of people thought, oh, this PHVS has an ATM, it's gonna go down. I think it's bad. I'm like, dude, like it was the same thing. It was a real company with a thicker float with easy to borrow shares. A ton of people were stuck in this, and they just got taken for a ride. So, PHVS, and then look at this. PHVS, this was that day retail tried to short it, at $4, $5. It's at $31 today. This is what a real biotech company looks like, especially when they get good news. So, I mean, when it comes to a CRA, I mean, who knows if this will give back its move and be back in the fours, or if this will, you know, do what a lot of these things do, which is it gets really thin and it starts grinding up. It gets really thin. The MAs on the daily catch up, and it just like starts grinding up, grinding up, grinding up. So we'll see. We'll see what it does. So yeah, some interesting stuff about biotech plays. Wanted to make a video on that. So have a good one, guys. See ya.